In our last video, we added the correlation to our PO demo schema, and we're going to send the approval file to disk. We're going to let the manager approve or deny the file. Then the file will come back into our orchestration and continue on through. So we're ready to deploy and test the solution, but first let's build our orchestration and make sure we don't have any compile errors. Okay, that was about a 10 to 12 second compile, and we have two little errors here. The first one says it's a correlation error. So-and-so date time received does not exist in message approved PO out. Okay, so let's go back and look at our PO out, our PO schema, and there's the date time received. Okay, so yeah, when I promoted the field earlier, I promoted PO number and PO amount. So what it's basically telling me here is I'm trying to correlate on a field that's not promoted. Okay, it's not actually looking at the data because I haven't dropped a file yet. This is a compile time error. So what it's saying is every field that you reference in the correlation has to be a promoted field over here. So we're going to here promote, quick promote, and then we'll have to rebuild the schemas. That was about a 4-second compile, and then I'll need to do the same thing we've done many times here. I'm going to drop and re-add the connection here. I will do that off the video. So after doing that, you build the orchestration again, and I'm counting that our two errors will go away this time, and they did. So we have 0 errors here, and let's go back up to the top and deploy our whole solution. I'll stop the video while it deploys. Okay, now here's an error that we probably haven't covered yet. So when you deploy, it tells you I can't change this because you have basically something active. Let me just read the whole message to you, because again, sometimes these messages are cryptic. It says failed to add resource or failed to update binding information. Could not change the bindings for orchestration so-and-so. Why couldn't it change it? As one or more instances of this orchestration still exist. So what that means is you got to go back to the BizTalk admin console and run the little group hub and look to see what's running and what's suspended. So there's nothing running right now. If I look at suspendeds, we see there's one orchestration suspended from a test we did maybe an hour or two ago. So you can't deploy while this orchestration is sitting here. So you have to come here and then do a terminate, and notice that it doesn't disappear right away either. I mean, it's gone, but until you run the query again, it doesn't refresh the screen. So now we have nothing running, nothing suspended, and now we go back and just simply deploy our project again, deploy our solution again. That was about an 8-second deploy that time. Okay, now this time I can't just drop the file, because if you think back, what I did in the orchestration was I added a new file here for binding. So if I go look, this file, I have to bind this logical port to a physical port. And we do that in BizTalk admin console. So we have to refresh here, and then we'll go look at our orchestrations, and more than likely that orchestration will be not in the started state, because how could it be started if all the ports are not correct at this time? So here's the orchestration. Look at its properties. Look at the binding, and you see here the word none. Okay, that's because I added a new port and then I did a deploy. So every time you add ports, you need to come here and define them. So what we need to do is map the logical port to a physical port, and I don't think I've created that physical port yet. So let's go look on our disk and let's see where we're going to put these files. First of all, I'm going to delete this one. Actually, I'll probably delete everything in this directory too. I'll have like a clean start here. So demo out is empty, needs approval is empty, and of course demo in is empty. And auto approved, let's kill all those. And our trace file, let's kill all those or delete them as well. Okay, so what we need is the manager is going to come to the needs approval directory, And after he fixes the file there, he needs to copy and paste it into another directory. So we're going to add another directory here called map demo approved. Well, it's not necessarily approved, it could be denied, but let's go ahead and call it approved PON. Or maybe I got a better idea. Maybe let's call this approved needs approved out. And to be a little more consistent, then let's call this needs approved in. Okay. So now when we sort these, they sort out better. So we have needs approval out. That's where the orchestration will write the message if it needs approval. Then the manager will move or cut and paste that file to the in directory. Okay. So now, since we renamed a directory here, we have to rename that port as well. So let's come down here and copy that over. And we're going to go to our, that was a send port. And that was called, actually we can see the name right here. So see this one that says needs approval? I'm going to slide this over. So right there we need to open that, go to configure, and we basically added the word out on the end of that file. Okay, now we need to create a new receive port. So we're going to go to receive ports, and we'll need a new receive location as well. And this will be, let's look at our other names. Everything we've been working on lately has been called map demo. Okay, so this is where I didn't really think far ahead. So we'll call this map demo approved PO in. Okay, and then there's no maps in there. And then the receive location, we have to add a new one. And let's keep the same name as the receive port here. So receive location, rloc map demo approved PON. Okay, and then we're going to go configure it as a flat file. Not a flat file, but a file adapter. Configure, and we're going to put the same name here, except instead of out, we're going to put in. It will be an XML file. And we will need to have a XML receive here, not a pass-through. And that should be all we need to do here. So moving down to the bottom, I'm going to click OK. And that receive location, every time you create a new receive location or a receive port, it will be disabled. So we need to right-click, enable that. Same thing on our send port. We did create a new port a minute ago, didn't we? No, we didn't create a new one. We just renamed the old one. So the Orch demo here, out approval needs approval. Okay, they're still there. So now we go back to our orchestration and we bind that missing port. So we go to bindings and port receive approved PO, pull down the list, and we're looking for demo approved PON. And then we can start our orchestration. I'll pause the video. And that started in about 4 seconds that time. Sometimes starting an orchestration can take 10, 20, 30 seconds. We're now ready to test. So we're going to go to demo map in. We're going to copy our purchase order over there. Now this one should be over $1,000. Okay, I opened HAT and we will look at the last 100 service instances. Okay, it's 6:23. It received the file, but it looks like nothing happened to our file. So one thing I just remember from the prior demonstrations was that sometimes demo map in loses its pipeline. So right here, yeah, we have XML receive pipeline there. So where else will I go look? I'm going to go to the application event viewer here. Refresh it if you need to. And at 6:23 we have an xlang error. And that's our orchestration name. The shape name is send app PO. it says failed to initialize the correlation property name PO date time received. So that could possibly mean that somewhere in our orchestration the PO date time received is not there. So this is where we could look at our trace. Let's look at our original file first. And we do have a PO date time received here. And we do have a PO number. So why couldn't it initialize that? Okay, this is one of those cases where I have a feeling that this message here is not exactly constructed properly. So what I should do is copy this trace like right here after my construct, and then we'll call that like trace 2040, and the name of the message we're constructing is message PO approval out. Make sure that's the message we're sending. Yes. So right here, let's look at this in the trace. And so we're going to take the XML document, construct a new object, set it equal to the approved PO out, and then write it to my little trace file. And I'll stop the video, rerun everything, and then we're going to go look at that together. The other thing I just remembered I probably didn't do, it's still the fatal flaw, is I may have not restarted my BizTalk host before I ran that last test. So I'll do that and then I'll redrop the file. So we're back over here, we're going to drop the file again. And the first thing I want to know is if I'm going to get the same error. So I'm going to go to Application Event Viewer, kind of keep an eye here. This information line is where I restarted the BizTalk host. So I can tell this red line was my error I had at 6:23. It's 6:30 now. Hit refresh, refresh, refresh. I don't seem to be getting the same error yet anyway. So let's go confirm that with hat. So we run the query. And what happened here? So it's 6:29 to say 6:30. We received a file. The orchestration started, but it didn't complete yet. But that's actually good. The reason our orchestration maybe didn't complete is we may be waiting on our manager approval. Okay? And I think that's the case because see here, the orchestration says started, and then it transmitted a file. And if we actually look to see which file it transmitted, do a right-click message flow, it says it submitted to needs approval out. So I think everything is working as planned. So we're going to go over here and go to needs approval out. And here's our message. So we're going to actually open it with an editor this time. By default, I've got here Edit Plus as my editor. And so let's put here approval ID. I'm in Walters. The time I approved. Okay, just so I don't mess up this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy another time field here. I actually don't know what the 000Z is. That could be a Greenwich Mean Time offset or something like that. So it's actually the 13th of November. And it's about 6:30 p.m. so that's 1832, and a status I'm going to type in approved, and the denial reason is blank because I did not deny it. Okay, so I'm going to save this file, and I can basically close out of here. And that's kind of weird. The utility, well, not weird, the Edit Plus always creates a backup of a file every time you save it, so I don't need the backup. So now what I'm going to do is take this file and I'm going to do either a move or a cut and paste. So I'm going to do a cut, and then I'm going to go here to needs approval end, and I'm going to paste it. But before I do that, I just want to show you that our orchestration is dehydrated probably. So if we go to the group hub reports over here, click there, and the group hub, say show running instances, which I already have open here, and click run query, you can see our orchestration is dehydrated. Now that's kind of a funny word that they chose. Dehydrated, if you think about it, literally means out of water. And so the orchestration, in technical terms, it means it's been taken out of memory and put to disk or put to the SQL database so that it's not taking up valuable resources, because BizTalk says, well, I've written to a file and I've got correlation here, so I don't know how long it's going to be before I get that approval file back. So I'm just going to take this orchestration and, more or less take it out of memory and put it in a dehydrated state. And then later, whenever that approval message comes in, I'm going to wake this orchestration back up and make it active and make it run again. The other thing you could see over here, there's another report. There used to be a separate utility for this in BizTalk 2004. It's kind of hidden in here. If you go to, see, I don't think they even have a link for it. But if you pick any one of these reports, such as suspended, we already got a suspended. Anyway, what we do is here search for, change this to subscriptions, okay, and then run it. And see, what's confusing is it still says suspended at the top, so that's kind of a misnomer. And then if you look down here, you can see that we have a specific orchestration right here with the GUID of 85BB. So actually, if I come over here and look at my trace that I created, you see it's 85BB. And if we see where my trace is, the last trace message we have was, basically that we wrote out this approval message, and we probably should put another trace said waiting for user response. And so this orchestration ID has a subscription right now waiting for a message to come back. And what kind of message is it waiting for? If you click subscription details and look here's the full subscription basically. And so it says I'm looking for a schema of this type. And unfortunately the screens don't grow very well. So I'm looking for an approved PO schema, and look, here's all our subscription information. So this is our correlated fields. So in other words, if I drop the file in, and if it has an ABC123 purchase order number, which you can see if I stretch over here, and if the date time received is blah 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 blah, then it's going to connect it back to this specific orchestration that I have kind of running and dehydrated right now. So that's kind of a cool report to be able to look for the subscriptions there. So I'm going to open the real suspended one again now. And now what? We're going to drop our file, if you recall. So we did a cut on our file, and now we're going to come over here and go to needs approval in, and we're going to do a paste. So we dropped the file, and I think BizTalk has already picked it up. We'll go back to hat, and we'll do a run. And so you can see right here, we had about a 6-minute lapse while I talked to you and made the video. So we're assuming the manager took 6 minutes to approve that PO. So the PO came in at 6:30, started the orchestration, and then to see actually inside the orchestration, we learned earlier you can go to right-click Orchestration Debugger. So let's go ahead and do that, because I could show you a couple things there. So I cleaned up the screen a little. If I go down here to, remember this little down arrow, so actually let's go back up. Here you see the big gap right here. Between this line and this line was 6 minutes. So what happened is we sent a message at roughly 6:30, and we didn't receive a response back until 6:36. So see, BizTalk says, after about a minute or maybe 2 minutes, I'm going to dehydrate that orchestration. The orchestration dehydrated, and then when that new message came in, the correlation matched it back up, and it came back into the same orchestration, and the orchestration then continues to run where it left off, and it runs all the way to completion, and it calls the logic here that says add PO to our system, which was our dummy trace logic. So I think that's a pretty cool little demo there. The only other variation of that is we could try denied and see what happens. So this video is already about 20 minutes, so we'll continue this discussion in the next video.